Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great, man. Looking good there. Nice. You got a great setup right there to do
Oh
this.
yeah, this is my office. You've come to I spend half my day here, and I have an art studio that I'm in the other half of my day. So I've got the
World
best.
famous sculptor among us.
Well, it's turned into a real thing for me, which has been beautiful. Another art form to explore as I've on this journey of an artist. Oy, God.
Noah has used the term, and he was going to tie this into a question later, but we got to use the term right now. You're a Renaissance man, Daniel
Well,
Stern.
I'd like to think so.
I
Uh,
mean, that's it.
well, I kind of am. It's again like in my family, nobody's in show business, and it's taken a long time for me to accept the contribution that artists give to culture, society, the influence it has on teaching and all the things, like it's just, oh, when I started acting, my mother's like, why are you trying to show off? It's just about showing off. It's just about the ego part of it. But, all kinds of cultural things, the stories you guys are telling, we have a big impact. And so like there's a legitimacy to the world. So I've tried to accept, yeah, I like to act, I like to write, I like to sculpt, I like to farm, I like to, be with my kids. There's lots of parts to life. And
I love
um,
that.
yeah, I love your background. Speaking of which, that's
Well, Daniel, you could probably tell you have been lured into what can only be known as the ultimate like Gen Z 40-year-old. You fit in our wheelhouse so much that you've just been lured into our world right back into where you carved such a niche for us back in the 80s and 90s. So you're in it, and now you are here on Starcade Stories, and there is no escape, my friend.
oh God. Wait, this button doesn't work anymore. We're going to be living here for the rest of our life.
You're in it now, and
Uh,
it's such a pleasure to have. We didn't give you a proper introduction because you, Daniel Stern, actor, artist, director, rancher, do not you don't need an introduction anywhere in the civilized world. So maybe that's maybe why we skipped it. And you have a
that's
severed head back there behind you, and so we're good.
oh wait, oh, the mask is that yeah, yeah, yes it is. Yeah, there's a whole I finally writing this book, it made me go through all my stuff, all, like all the pictures I had, because I was like looking for pictures for the book, and I was writing stories about my life, and it's like I went, did that really happen? And I looked it up, or I found a picture of it and stuff, and it gave me the my office has like been barren walls for forever, but I got all my crap out of the boxes while I was writing the book, and I forced myself to put it up. So I've got my wall of like, I found my sign. Can you see that one back
Yeah.
there? Found my
Yeah.
sign like from when I was hitchhiking at 13. Me and my best buddy hitchhiked from DC up to Maine and back at 13, and but I found the sign
Wow.
that was like our DC sign that one of our friends made for us. So anyway, it was fun digging through all my stuff, and now it's my background reduced. But do you have any? You don't have any. I was a Redskins fan. I'm just looking behind you there. That was
Cheap stuff back here. So,
We're in Kansas
Chiefs.
City.
Okay.
so yeah.
What do
I
you do?
Back to back Super Bowl champions.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm humbled. We had Sonny Jurgensen a couple of years way back, and no,
Mark
we had
Rippon.
we had some good. Yeah, we had some good teams there. I went.
Joe Theismann, he's been on our show a lot.
Oh,
Great show.
really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you
Cool.
promise us that you and Dan Aykroyd will never at any point kidnap Patrick Mahomes?
It would be funny if we did. Uh,
If that ever happens, if he's ever missing in the next Super Bowl and we're
you
playing
know,
Washington, I'm gonna know who to send him to.
come on. I mean, Celtic Pride was. Oh, I see. No, you've got my movies behind you
Yeah,
too.
I
Now,
do. Yeah.
now I'm looking at that. Oh my
Diner
God.
and City Slickers and Home Alones
Oh,
and
look at
Rookie of
all
the
that.
Year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally sick of me after writing the book and I'm talking about myself and seeing myself remember. It's like, yeah, I'm done with that guy. I'm glad you guys are carrying the torch.
Well, at the time this airs, the book is out and it's available through Simon and Schuster. It's called Home and Alone, and it just, when we saw that you were writing this, when we saw this was coming out, we immediately had to reach out to your publicist. Like,
Right.
we have to talk to Daniel about this. We have to.
And by the way, on the book, all of the money goes to Boys and Girls Clubs
Wow.
of America. Because that was part of the thing for me that I learned even writing the book. Like I said, I hitchhiked. I was on my own by 6. I was a very independent kid,
Yeah.
and then when I grew, I dropped out of high school and I moved to New York, and like I always felt I could do stuff. And then it turned out. Then I sort of put this together right in the book. It was like then it turned out the biggest movies I did are about empowering kids, right? I mean, Home Alone, like you think a kid can't do it? Oh, he can do it. Your rookie of the year, the kid's going to get in the major leagues. He can't do it. He does it, and people love that movie. People love that story and people believe in it. And they should, because kids are very, very capable people, and to give them that independence is what we want. So then I got successful and blah, blah, blah. And my wife and I started a Boys and Girls Club. And it's a fantastic movement, and they're everywhere. They're in rich communities, poor communities, reservations. They're everywhere on military bases. And then I put it together. Oh, you know what? That's about empowering young people. That's what that whole place does. That's what I was so honored to work on it. And so then with the book, it was like, that's perfect. The whole book's about that. Let's give all the money to them because I don't need the money right now. And it'd feel so much better. I mean, I hope everybody buys the book because I hope it makes $1 million, and I feel really sick that I gave all that away. But it'll be a good sick. No, it would be yeah. So it just sort of took that pressure off the book, and so the book's about what it's about, and it sort of fit in. So if you're thinking of buying the book, that's my plug. It's also a contribution.
Absolutely. We mentioned Renaissance Man. We didn't mention that you received the President's Call to Service Award for your work with the Boys and Girls Club.
I did. Yeah,
great
that was
tie-in.
like one of the great I mean, it still makes me tear up, but like, yeah, we put in a lot of time and raised a lot of money, and it takes a lot of thought, and then but the organization itself, and I'm sure everybody who's listening's got one in their community, and man, like they have mentor programs where the older kids are teaching the younger kids, and then they have after school homework help, and then they got sports, and then they got art, and then and the kids are engaged when the parents are working, and it's a real simple model, but man, it's effective. And so I put a lot of time in, and then President Obama awarded my wife and I like the volunteer.
Amazing.
Yeah. So and the club is still kicking along. And anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about me, for
Well,
God's sakes.
I love this. I love this book, Home and Alone, because it really you lived an opposite life from me in many ways. And here's one: I'm 40, never been married, never had kids.
Mhm.
You started a family when you were like 20 years old, right? So how
Yeah.
do you feel like that instance in your life kind of set your, and maybe there's a happy medium between what I did and what you did, folks out there.
Oh,
But
it's
you, it
everybody's
was
on your own ride. Everybody, my son's had his first child at 40. Right.
wow.
My son just turned 42. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? When I was 42, I was sending him to college, so, and now he's got two babies, and I'm like, but it's perfect. It's perfect for him. It's perfect for you. That was perfect for me, and that's what I wanted. Again, like I was a kid in New York, and I met this woman who was like ready to make a home, and I was out there on my own, and I fell in love with her, and there's so much wasted time, and there's nothing better, but I mean, for a period of time than being an unemployed actor. Because then, like you're kind of looking for work, but you got your day free, and we go to the park and play frisbee, and like a lot of wasted time, which was great. But then it was like, how long am I going to do this? I got a lot of time on my hands. I could have a kid, and I could take him to the park. At 22, I'm like, I was thinking, like, I got time. And I loved kids. My mom was a nursery school teacher. My dad was a social worker, worked with young people. So I always kind of loved being around kids. I don't know. That was the path I got on. It was, yeah. And it was but I also, like, my son's had a whole life. You've had a whole life. That kind of dad you're going to be. I was a dad like, let's go play and blah, blah, blah. I didn't get the wisdom till much later. I didn't pass on any wisdom to my children. Just good times. No, but they're still my kids, so we're still growing up together. So I'm loving it, and I'm a grandpa.
Got a doctor, a musician, a California state senator. I mean, you
Not
got
bad
something right there, Daniel.
Come on, for a
Not
high
bad.
school dropout, I'm kicking butt.
You are.
They make me look good. They make me look real good, and my wife does too. And that's the thing. We've got a beautiful family, and I've become more and more myself in it, and finding all these other expressions and expanding. I've always been expanding my life. I like that. I like that. I've just had that freedom and tried to take advantage of it. So, yeah. Are you hitched? Do you?
No, we are both single and out there and ready, maybe, or I don't know. We're focused on this business. We're focused on connections and interactions with people like you from our childhood. We're big on nostalgia, and this just means the world to us. We're having a blast. So nothing.
Would you date me, Daniel? Would you date me with my man cave here?
Yes, of course.
That's it right there.
But I'd have to ask my wife. But sure, let's give it a try. I mean,
Daniel's up for new things. He's got his hand in everything.
I said I'm into it.
I've got some cool wrestling figures down here. I don't know.
Daniel, we talked about your book. You got that going on. That's a new project for you, but you're also in For All Mankind on Apple TV. You're in season 4 of that. Hopefully that's continuing on. And then you're currently working on Everything's Peachy, a film adaptation, your off-Broadway hit. And I mean, you write, direct, star in it. What can you divulge to us about that project, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, it's a fun, I mean, again, I was sort of like, I decided I wanted to try to write something. I was goofing around. I mean, this is years ago. I lived in Malibu for 25 years, so I don't live there anymore. But so I was I had this crappy little house next door there with my office, and I was writing. I was trying to write, and helicopters are circling on top of my head, and I'm going, "What the heck?" I say to my wife, like, "I can't think. Why are there helicopters?" She says, "Barbara Streisand's getting married today," and I say, "Oh," and I'm not invited. And I went, so I wrote a play called Barbara's Wedding that is about the day Barbara Streisand got married, and it's the couple that lives next door trapped in their house with all the paparazzi, and he's a failed actor who was like on a hit called Everything's Peachy. At a time. So anyway, it was this sort of weird little play that ran off Broadway. I wrote it. Laurie Metcalf and I did the first reading of it, and then they opened it in Philly, and then 2 great actors did it in New York, and it was kind of thrilling. And so of late, I adapted it to a film. And then, a tiny little film with two characters. Laurie and I are supposed to do it, but she keeps getting a job. That's the problem. It's only the 2 actors, but she works all the freaking time. And but it's going to be a lot of hats to wear at the same time. But I kind of, I'm ready for that. I know the part inside and out, and Laurie will make me pay attention. So anyway, that's going to be another weird challenge. I'm going to get through this book and then move my focus to that.
Oh, excited about that. Very excited about that. And, you talk about, impacting children. You're looking at 2 of them right here. I mean, from 1988 until, the late 90s, you were such a part of our lives. And I tell you, the Wonder Years, you being that guiding voice that guided Kevin through his life lessons as an adolescent and growing up. We grew up with Kevin. We grew up with you being that guiding voice. You directed 10 episodes of the show as well, but because that we never see you on screen as Kevin, do you feel like that you had a less of a connection with the content and the show, or from the behind the scenes when you're doing those impactful readings and you're directing those episodes, are you really feeling connected to it?
Totally connected to it. Totally connected to it. The first time I read that first script, it was like, oh my God, because Kevin was exactly my age in 1968. He lived in a neighborhood just like my neighborhood in Maryland. I mean, it was uncanny, and it turned out there was two writers, a husband and wife, and Carol Black grew up in the next town from me. So it was my voice. It was my life. It was a decade, year for year. I'm in seventh grade at that time. So, and the writing was poetry and funny and observational and sentimental. And it was an incredibly great part. It was a great character, which I'd never done voiceover. I'd never tried it. And I didn't have a voiceover voice. I don't, I mean, there at that time, like, the commercial voiceover world was filled with baritones and, but I felt it. I felt the story, and each week another script came along, just like my first kiss. Oh my God. It's my first driving lesson. It's my first the kid up the street got shipped off to Vietnam. Our friend's brother got shipped off to Vietnam, came back a changed person. Everything, and then my little brother got
7 episodes.
Yeah, he ended up a writer on it. Dave's writing about us in Bethesda, and it was like so full and so rich and such a connection to the audience, and such a great gig too, because like I was recording it, but I was also going off and doing Rookie of the Year. And so I'd be in Chicago shooting a movie and then go to a recording studio in town, read these awesome scripts, and get 2 paychecks at the same time. Boom.
That's how you're doing it. You're cheating the system right there. How'd you get into the directing side of it?
Yeah.
Because did you learn from the greats that you kind of worked under, either Sidney Lumet, Woody Allen, Robert Redford, a host of others, George P. Cosmatos? I mean, you worked with so many greats. What did you take from them to kind of mold into your own unique directing style?
That's a great question, and because that's who I cut my teeth with, who I watched. And to find the common denominator, it was they were clear on their vision. They handled the set completely different ways. Being on the set, Woody Allen directing me in something, he was aloof in his way. Peter Yates directing me was so nurturing. Barry Levinson was loose as a goose. Diner, we improvised like for a month. We just BS'd our way through diner scenes with Paul Reiser, like
such a great cast,
being so funny. Everybody had to kind of keep up. So Barry had a loose. So I'm not necessarily that or that or that. What I discovered was, how am I? Who am I on a set? How do I lead people? How do I get the best out of people? The cameraman, the grips, the actors, the designers, the costumer, always having conversation, that's what I felt was a community building. I love that growing up on a movie set. And so now I'm the camp director, and I'm saying sort of where we're going, but I need your idea. I need your idea. I enjoyed talking to actors because I knew how to speak, and they trusted me, and they were kids. So directing kids was another. It was like I coached the baseball team too. It's always been kid oriented, and directing and learning to direct by giving them a comfortable place to make the set comfortable for young people to be creative and feel safe, and all that stuff was a perfect way to break in for me.
That's very meaningful, considering a lot of kids haven't felt safe, and for good reason, on sets, and that
right.
To subconsciously, for people like us, you kind of became a safe space for viewers. When we'd see you in these movies and these comedies and Rookie of the Year, and it's like, I could picture that guy being like my mentor and being a kind of a buffoon, getting stuck in hotel doorways and things like that. And even as a robber, as a in Home Alone, and for Gen Zers, that movie for Home Alone, and the book's called Home Alone, and you talk a lot about that movie and the impact and working with Joe Pesci in the book. But how, in your opinion, has this silly little Christmas movie continued every year to become more impactful and to be more a part of the American lexicon? And in my opinion, when Noah and I talk every year, we say it's closer to my number one favorite movie of all time than it is like 50 or 60. It's closer to number one. And that's insane.
It is. It is. And I haven't had by being in it, I haven't had the same experience as everybody else.
Right.
Everybody else is not in it. And they all feel a commonality with it. I'm one of the people who happen to be in it. So and feel it coming this way. I feel the love of the movie, the warmth that it gives other people to hang out with each other, laugh. That was a physical comedy that, the physical comedy of that is outstanding. And it was, it was real. There's no special effects or anything. So it was a homemade movie in a way. John Hughes wrote a perfect script. Mac is just the essence of can-do spirit in a kid and innocence, and and the structure of the movie was perfect. I mean, it was a home run movie. And then people just took it to their hearts. And so I took me a long time. I mean, everywhere I've gone in the world, I went to Iraq to visit the troops in Iraq, and they took us they wanted to show us it was early. So it was kind of crazy there, but they wanted to show us that Baghdad was cool. So they took us shopping. They took me and my son, who was my assistant, to the jewelry store so I could buy my wife something. I'm like, I don't need to. We don't need to go in. They've got the Humvees lined up, and we drive in, and we get out and we go into the store and shop, and the people there recognize me. By the time I get outside, there's a line of kids who had been playing soccer in the square, and they're all saying Marv, Marv, Marv. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm in a war zone, and these kids are smiling. It breaks my heart, because even that, it's such an honor to be a part of that. If a person sees me and they give a smile and they remember all the magic that they feel about the movie, again, that other people feel, that I don't exactly have those yearly celebrations, but it's quite an incredible honor to travel through the world and have people say, "Oh, I love you." I mean, if I have to acknowledge that to myself, the gratitude, because that's a very small percentage of people living this life who have that effect, who get that love sent my way. So it's been amazing personally. And, quite a blessing.
Did you feel something different while you were filming it versus once you saw the finished product and the John Williams music and the score that was perfect, and just how everything came together, and maybe you felt it was silly in this kid's family movie while you're filming it, and then after watching it, you was like, this is something more. There's something more to this.
No, I thought that the first time I read it. I thought that was the only time I felt that and the City Slickers script, those are the two, and Wonder Years script too, those big ones, they present themselves, that's special. That made me fall on the floor laughing, but it was written so perfectly. So John Williams' music was exactly what it was supposed to be. The genius of John is that it was there. It was there for the take. I mean, the movie presented itself so well at every step of the way, and Chris directed the movie perfectly after John had written it perfectly, and then John Williams scored it, and the actors acted it pretty well, and the stuntmen blew it out of the water. The stuntmen on that brought that movie to that cartoon level. So now you have the heart, and you have these live action Wile E. Coyote things going on, and Troy and Leon crushed it. Man,
Yeah.
I never saw anything like that. So
And before Home Alone, you worked with several of the actors in other projects, whether it be John Hurt, Joe Pesci, Devin Ratray. Was there any familiarity or comfort level having at least been around those other actors previously?
Oh yeah, I think that was sort of the fun and the magic of me and Joe goofing around because we'd already had a ton of fun on this other weirdo movie we did. We both got cut out of it, luckily, called I'm Dancing as Fast as I Can.
Yes.
We were two people in a mental institution, and it was not a comedy, but we made each other laugh a lot. So yeah, when Joe was in it, and I mean, he's so incredible, and so we were already the chemistry of that was easy. I mean, we were already goofy with each other, and the script was right there. And Joe was saying, first time we were meeting, like, yeah, I'm going to come up with a cartoon voice. And Chris is like, what, like a what? And he's like, like Russum feckin' feckin' record. And it was like, yeah, do that. And then like, okay, I see where this is going. First time I watched Leon do a stunt for me and just fall down those icy stairs in the back of the house. And I'm like, holy crap, you really did that. You just had a little backpack and you just threw yourself up in the air, landed on your back on the stairs and slid down them. And you're going to do it again and again and again. It was like the level of the game kept, everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do. And so it came together. I couldn't predict, no one could predict the length of how long the bell has stayed rung, but we were very proud of the movie. And then, and yeah, yeah, the long life of it is, I don't think anybody could have like imagined that.
Why did you
Right.
decide at this stage to do a book as opposed to a lot of actors, especially of your ilk? We've seen Stallone, Schwarzenegger do large scale documentaries, and that's obviously something
Well,
that's still on
that's
the
next.
table.
Yeah, this is the beginning of it. This is all. No, I don't want to film myself.
Really?
No, the book was well.
We'll
The
do
book
it.
was,
Yeah.
sure, you can follow me around. It's fascinating.
Love to.
The book was I didn't even start to write a book. I started to like my kids again. My kids are having kids. We live on this wonderful farm. My wife's great. My parents live here. I mean, life has been great. And I I guess pandemic or something. It gave me a chance to stop for a second. Like, and I stopped and I go, how the hell? How have you had this life? This life is crazy. And it always keeps going. I've been living fast, even if it's not in show business. I keep doing more things, and so I just took the moment to kind of assess. And I said, I'm just going to make a list. Like I was born in 1957, and then I just made a list. And then I thought, I wonder if I have anything to say about it. And I wrote a chapter or two, and then I started to expand, like just enjoyed the writing and enjoyed remembering this stuff and decided, found a little voice that I said, well, maybe I could actually write a book. So I started writing it, and then it was like, yeah, then my agent sort of took it out. I got the book deals like, am I going to really write a book? I mean, and because again, I'm a high school dropout. Like I was a dyslexic kid. The book starts is like my mother saying to me, that's one of the first lines in the book is like, you're going to write a book? You can't even read a book. And it was like, well, yeah, but I do know how to write. And she's never been my biggest fan anyway, by the way. But no, in a good way. But anyway, I just kind of dove in. It became funny. It started to coalesce as like I've talked about youth empowerment. I hadn't planned on writing a book about that, but as I kind of wrote a book, I wanted to make it like a movie. Like I like storytelling. When I've written my play, it's like I like to tell a story. So that's what it turned into, a funny way to tell. I mean, I try to have humor, show what actually happened, tell you about what it was like to do that movie, what was going on in my real life, what my just the journey of it. And I ended up kind of feeling good that I brought the book together. So, then I gave it to the editor and she said, "Boy, you don't know anything about punctuation, do you?" And I said, "No, I
Small,
really."
we don't. Who cares?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like making
Got
a
the
movie.
good stuff in there.
I don't need to know the lighting in a movie. There's people who do that. So the process has been fun, very educational. Giving the money to the Boys and Girls Club really took the pressure off it being like, oh, and I hope everybody buys the book. And am I going to win? Am I going to lose? It's like take the money off the table, finish the journey, because that's not why I wrote a book. I don't need the money. And so it's been just another like sculpture. Like I spend 7 months making a sculpture sometimes. This was the same thing. And and then I'll go make a movie. It's just one artistic endeavor after another. But it's been a blast. It's just something I never expected to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned youth empowerment, and you also mentioned that when you're talking about Rookie of the Year and how kind of that was the basis behind that. And you and John Candy were both in Home Alone. Did that play any part in him agreeing to do Rookie of the Year, which you directed? And
Yeah.
can you share a memory of working with him?
Oh, heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the funniest, gentlest, brilliant, humble dude you can imagine. I only got to watch him. Like he came in one night in the Home Alone movie. They were in a van. He improv'd forever. I just watched on the monitor, but I couldn't stay the whole night. And like, so, I mean, I got to taste everybody's thing, but me and Joe were kind of on our own in our own little world. But so we did Rookie of the Year. We shot the whole movie. And cut it together and had a test screening, and it went really good. So the studio said, we're going to invest a little bit more money. That part was not in the movie to start with. That was totally an afterthought because they gave us a little bit more money. They said, so I said, maybe John can do it because he'd be perfect. And then actually, and his sidekick was a kid I directed on the Wonder Years. So Andy, can't remember his last name, but so like bingo, they built a set on the oh, do I push? Okay. So they built a set for the newsroom, and I had John for 3 days up there, and we wrote a whole new script for him, and so we could fill in gaps of the game. John can be hysterical, get him on his own crazy ride, and that was all an afterthought. Which is, when I look at the film, it's like, how was that not even? He's so integral to the film, and it would have been a very different movie. I love that movie.
Oh, we
I
just
got to know every inch of Wrigley, by the way. I mean, that's the thing. I spent 3 months in Wrigley taking batting practice, taking infield, goofing around, every in and out. Then I got to do the same thing at the Boston Garden. So I've had two historic sports arena experiences. Another just like, wow, how many people get to do that?
Well, one thing that, we like to talk about with our guests here on Starcade Stories, because the reason it's called Starcade Stories is because the people we have on this show have made an impact on our lives in some way, whether it be athletes, musicians, actors, directors, and you certainly fit into that category as much as anyone we've had. So for you, it seemed like there was maybe a crossroads in your life. You talked in the book about, hey, I could either be a gas station attendant or an actor. So we kind of took a path in our lives too, Daniel. We decided, and we joke about it, we're 40 and single, haven't been married, but we wanted to do this. We didn't want to work at a factory for our whole lives. We couldn't do it. We were different. And so that's the path we chose. And it seems like that you sort of had a similar road less traveled in your life.
Absolutely. You got to find your way. You got to find your own way. Everybody gets one chance at it. You got to find that balance between following your dream, working at it, doing it. That's what you guys are doing. You're doing it because there's talkers and there's doers. And so, everybody can say, "Oh, I want to be an actor." All right. Kids say to me, "I want to be an actor." I say, "Good. get in the school play. Well, no, not that. I I want to have a TV series. I'm like, well, yeah, so do I. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, get in the game and try acting. Try it. Don't talk about it. I said, you got an iPhone, make a movie. You want to be a director? Go ahead. I can make a movie today on my computer, and so go do it. And you guys are doing it. That's the thing. So that's what kid empowerment is about. And now you're big boys, you're men.
Well,
That's
sort of
debatable.
debatable.
Yeah. But it's helping you find your thing and then encouraging you to do the work, like the sculpting thing for me. I realize I've been doing that 20 years now. I'm finally like the pieces are kind of impressive at this point. I started by doing paper mache. I was doing
Wow.
like giant weirdo paper mache heads because I had a dream about my kindergarten teacher doing paper mache, and I thought I should do that. And I went in the garage and like made this huge head, and then I put some clothes on, and I went, "That's funny," and I did it again, and then I did that for a while. Then I started doing it in plaster. Then it was like, the real sculptors sculpt in clay and Rodin. And who's that? What do I want to do? And you put the time in. That's the thing. You put the time in, you put the work in, you do it, you make mistakes, you fix them, you learn, you do. That's the whole thing. And that's what's impressive with you guys is you're doing it. Everybody else can talk about they want to do it. You're doing it.
Wonderful words of wisdom right there. You said you didn't have it early on. You sure have it now. Now we get to the question that everyone wants to know. Which came first, you getting the role in City Slickers or you wanting to be a real life cattle rancher?
I grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I believed in the hippie ethos of getting back to the land. That was always something I wanted. I always didn't even know what it was, but like the fantasy was I was going to live in a school bus and park it on a farm somewhere. And then when my wife and I got married, it was like we drove through the fields of Pennsylvania and we went, one day we're going to have a farm. So that was like something that was in our heads. And we looked, I think that getting to the land when I, even as a young couple in New York, we rented a house in Woodstock. And then we were going to buy a house in Woodstock.
Wow.
I wanted to be that. I wanted to have a family and like in a small town, not in a city. So I always looked for that rural thing. City Slickers, but made it kind of like also then living in California. I wasn't gonna, just trying to find like I didn't want to be in Santa Barbara. I didn't, and we found this tiny little town and we bought this cattle ranch but it gave me it was funny that the skills I learned on City Slickers, the land that we could afford to buy is cattle, or, so I lease it to a cattleman and I'm actually roping, not roping, but herding cows on I don't get on a horse. I get on my quad, but I really learned who knew that would come in handy.
Yeah, and speaking of City Slickers, one of my favorite scenes in film history is when Billy Crystal's talking to you about getting a do-over and you got a clean slate now, and you're talking to him about, oh, your wife's going to wipe you out in the divorce, you're an adulterer, you're going to lose your job. How's that slate look now? Very emotional, beautifully acted by you and Billy. I love that scene.
It was such a good part, such a good movie.
Yes.
Again, with the Home Alone, City Slickers was the other script. I just went, the movie's right there. It was all in the words, the heart, the action, the comedy off the charts. And as an actor, a great part. And I stumbled into it. Rick Moranis was supposed to play the part.
Wow.
And it's in my book, by the way, if you,
Yes.
but
Alone.
Rick Moranis, him and Bruno and Billy were doing it, and Rick's wife got sick, and he had to drop out at the last minute. And so like with a week to go, they cast me, and it was but they developed it as the three of them to have this incredible. Each character had a huge journey. Bruno's character too, but so I walked into that part like, oh my God. because it's so funny. It's so sad. He's heroic. He runs and jumps into the river and grabs Billy, and like he can't ride a horse, and he's trying his best, and he gets the girl at the end. Phil was just like insanely great character. I loved the roller coaster. Such a generous film that way. But yeah, I'd forgotten about those scenes. That was yeah, it was.
And the best and worst day of your life is, you're like, oh, what was the worst day? Like every day since the marriage was the worst day. Every day since the wedding is kind of a tie.
It's kind of a tie.
Certainly not take it from real life. You've had a wonderful journey with your wife, with your family, and we can't thank you enough for this time that we've spent here. I want to encourage everybody not only to buy the book Home and Alone. It's available through Amazon, through Scheiman and Schuster Books, which is a tremendous. I mean, Steve Gutenberg's got a book coming out on that. There's a lot of good stuff coming out.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
it's going to be great. Yeah, so it's kind of a perfect symbiotic relationship there. And your Instagram, Real Daniel Stern. You upload a lot of videos, a lot of fun stuff. You keep people updated with the sculpting, the things that you're doing, the projects. That's probably the best way to keep a hold of you, correct? To be probably the Instagram.
Yeah, it is. I've just, I go through periods, but like having the book come out and like focusing myself, I've been posting. It's been fun, actually. That's the first time I've sort of started to get the social media thing.
I think you got it down with the book announcement and no pants. I think you got it down.
Come on.
He's not wearing any pants right now, actually.
I'm going to have fun. That's what I figured. I'm going to show like I do these things. I posted something to me with the cows, actually, because it was like one of my cows got out and it was like, I'm going to have to get that cow back. So I'm understanding how to share a little bit more, because mostly I just like to be here and work and do the things. But it's like it's easy to share and it's fun to share. And the reason I do a lot of it is for the audience. I mean, I want to connect with people and through my artwork, and so I'm enjoying sharing it. Thanks for mentioning it.
Thank you for helping us grow up, and I mean that in a completely profound way, because that is absolutely true. I mean, a couple of things you were talking about, I was almost kind of getting teary-eyed just thinking about some of these things, the life lessons that we both learned from shows like The Wonder Years, from all the things that you've done. Daniel, thank you so much.
Man.
This has meant the world, and we can't hope more continued success for you, for your family, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, do. This was a real pleasure and a joy to meet you guys. Nice talking with you.
Absolute honor. You are our childhood, and we got to do this again. We got to have you back on again soon.
I'll be back. I'd love it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.